Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lyds and we're back for some more Thronebreaker, and last time we had the Battle of the Pawntar, which is one of the only missions that I'd heard about before starting up Thronebreaker, so I thought it was a really important one, possibly the last one in the entire game. Obviously, that's not the case. However, after the fact, we had to choose whether to abandon half of our team or not, and it seemed like if we didn't abandon them, those that were injured, that is, that Nilfgaard was going to catch up to us, and we were basically doomed, so we did leave them behind. But, you know, probably some mixed feelings still about that. We'll see. I'm sure that will come back to bite us in some way, shape, or form in the future. But look at our map here. I mean, there is potentially just one more encounter for the rest of Angren. To be fair, I thought that Angren was going to conclude at least one, if not several encounters before this, as I thought that Gurnakor was going to be the last one. So I don't really know what to expect here. There's apparently some kind of little town here. Maybe there'll be something there before we head over to what I have to assume is the final thing to do in this area. Now, presumably, Nilfgaardians are still trying to chase us down right now, so that probably means that at least for this encounter here, that's what we should expect to get around to. But we shall see. We shall see. We're on high morale. I don't even remember why that is. That seems kind of odd given the circumstances that we currently find ourselves in. What is that? Nothing, apparently. We also have a fair bit of, at least wood, certainly, and I guess that's not a ton of gold. We might be able to afford some kind of upgrades at the moment, but I would assume that since we're close to making it to the next area, it might be worth holding off and seeing if we get new options available to us once we get to the next area. We also did make some adjustments to our deck for the previous battle, and so I'm not sure to what extent that's going to be the setup we want to continue to use going forward, or if that was just a one-time adjustment, and perhaps it's best to switch back. But this is probably the town in question that we saw, and it looks like it's been ransacked, and thus we will ransack it more, apparently. Again, a lot more wood than gold. Not so surprisingly, I suppose. That's generally the case, but I assume this was the, little town in question. So, this seemed like the one place we might have gotten some kind of encounter before going to this last spot, so I guess it's probably only this. It is also kind of interesting how, we looped all the way around, and eventually we ended up more or less back where we started, or at least very close to it, which is kind of interesting in a way. I wonder if you could actually see this spot from where we were at the beginning. We might have even commented on that when we passed by it previously. That'd be kind of funny to wind back the clock. But surely this is it. So, back before the previous Battle of the Pawntar, which seemed to just sort of be like the first half of the battle, I had thought before then that we were maybe just not even going to get a battle at the end of the zone, and that seemed kind of odd since there's usually been a pretty significant one at the end of each area. But with that in mind, you have to assume whatever this is, it's going to be big, and it's probably Battle of Pawntar Part 2. Unless we just casually mosey on out of here, but doesn't look like that.
Spotted a dark form spanning the river's course. Red Lobendon's Bridge. Just a brief stretch more, and the Lyrians would find themselves beyond the invaders' grasp, free and clear of bogs, and the beasts that prowled them. Yet joy at this sight soon gave way to despair. The bridge was dark, black, from the horde of Nilfgaardians that held it.
Of course.
Clearly the Blackclads had divined the path of Meve's flight, and had cut off her last means of escape.
That's it. We're dead men. All! They'll cut us down to the last!
Not if we have anything to say about it.
Meve shut her eyes, felt them sting with fatigue. She knew when she turned she could not show her men 1 ounce of fear, 1 pinch of doubt. She gripped her reins tightly. The leather dug into her skin, helping her hold back her tears. And when the Queen finally spoke, her voice was strong and boomed over the river's roar.
I know what you wish to hear.
The Queen began.
That the gods watch over us. That we'll come through the fray unharmed. That a friendly force is but moments away.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not sure that's the case.
Those truth is as bitter as it is undeniable. We stand cornered. Cannot win this fight. Cannot flee it. We can but choose how to die. Hanged from the boughs like common criminals, or weapons in hand like the fighters we are. I've made my choice. Time you made yours!
With that cry, Meve broke for the bridge toward a forest of spears into a deluge of arrows. She let the tears fall from her eyes. Tears of rage, fear, fatigue. It was not until she'd almost reached the enemy line that she dared glance backward. And she saw she was not alone.
Whew, alright. An inspiring speech for sure, although not that positive of a speech at that, granted, given the circumstances. Suppose I understand, but maybe this was the big battle that I had anticipated, as I thought it was supposed to be on the bridge. So, oh boy, what are we in for here? It's a story battle, a standard battle. Let's see, so Meve had hoped, and the battle for the bridge. So Meve had hoped she'd never die in her own bed, surrounded by snot-nosed, teary-eyed grandchildren. Rather, she wished for a worthy end. Armor shining brightly, Lyrian banner waving magnificently in hand. Yet, under current circumstances, it seemed more likely that she'd die among the rushes, filthy with sweat and mud, trampled under the hooves of Nilfgaardian horses. Could this truly be the fate of the gods had decided for her? Only time will tell. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be 3 full rounds here. I don't remember if that was the case for the previous encounter or not. It may not have been. But let's jump in. Now, is it going to be a similar deck that our opponent is running compared to the one that we just had? In which case, maybe our deck is still well set up for this. Okay, now this, I think, is the board that I was expecting us to be playing on, because the battle for the bridge in the back of my head was sort of I'm pretty sure there's a multiplayer Gwent challenge themed around it, and it's based on, of course, the Thronebreaker battle, and that's probably the reason why I had sort of heard of this mission before. But okay, so what is the deal here? Our opponent is a Nilfgaardian general. Oh, we actually don't even choose our hand? Oh, we just get thrown straight in? We just get thrown straight in. It's a little bit odd. So, what is your deal? For every 3 units played, draw a unit and boost self by its power. On turn start spawn 4 Alba Armored Cavalry. So, in other words, you better not use any order abilities. My goodness. Wow. Okay. So they already start with 4 here. This looks like it's gonna be really tough. Uh-oh. Okay, Imperial Brigade. If in hand, deck or on the battlefield, strengthen self by 2 whenever an enemy unit appears on the ranged row. So ideally, we're playing in the melee row. Unless we deliberately set this guy up to become huge and be the target of things like Tainted Ale and Infiltrators, although we don't have any Infiltrators in hand at the moment. Could force some adjacent units to duel. What is the deal with the Heavy Fire Scorpion? AKA Hefty Helga. Damage all enemies by 1, cooldown 2. Death Wish, damage all units on this row by 4. So if we can destroy this, and then it could potentially even get rid of the Imperial Brigades before they get a chance to get bigger, although we'd have to do that very quickly. Otherwise, these brigades are going to get big enough that that won't be sufficient to destroy them. Oh, and we have different stuff starting on the board here, because we have Meve. Okay, so we know what the deal is with all these guys, but what is the deal with Meve Steadfast? Immune permanent resilience. So she stays on the board for every round. 25-point bonus for us. That really makes me think that our win condition here is not so much to win round 1, but more so to win rounds 2 and round 3 using our carryover from Meve, which 25 points is... It's not enough to single-handedly win a match, of course, but it is significant. That's potentially a turn or 2 worth of points. Then all the Skellige guys brought back with Dogger is another way in which we could potentially prioritize round 2 and round 3 over round 1. And if our opponent, quote-unquote, over-invests in round 1 and doesn't have things with carryover value, like resilience, like stuff coming back from their graveyards, then perhaps we can outplay them in the later rounds. So that's, at least at first thought, what comes to mind as what we ought to do here. Oh, artifact compression was mostly an experiment. Yeah, why do we not choose our hand? That's so weird. That has never happened before. I'm pretty sure this is the first time that's ever happened. And I would kind of like to adjust our hand here. Did I accidentally close out of that immediately, absentmindedly, when I was trying to see what else was on the board? Alright, well, maybe it was my own doing. But I say that in large part because, given what I was just saying, would really like to have all the possible Skellige guys round 1, not even worry about winning round 1 so much, and instead prioritize just getting all the carryover we can possibly muster here. So, we could also just immediately destroy you with Gabor, which is maybe not a terrible idea. We also can't use our... Okay, this is definitely not a coincidence. We cannot choose our hands at the beginning. We also don't have access to our leader ability. I suppose, in a way, that's because Meve is directly on the board rather than taking her usual spot over here, leading the troops from a little more of a removed position. But okay, let's go, Gabor. Let's destroy you. You should... Well, I mean, in some regards, if we wait, then there's potentially more things in this row to get hit by you. So it's a little tempting. And on the other hand, destroying all these guys would be really nice. Granted, Gabor at most destroys 2 cards. We could use Tainted Ale on you on a later occasion. As long as we don't play things in the range row to power you up. Although they might move things into the range row. Barnabas, who knows? So these guys are also going to get out of hand very quickly. And since there's so many of them, they might actually be a bigger concern in this round. Obviously, as I said, the Skellige guys are the primary thing that I would like to build around, but given how we can't fine-tune our hand, and we don't have a lot of them in our hand, and we can't use our leader ability, yeah, that actually makes it really tough to make Skellige guys as effective as they would otherwise be. So, this is gonna be tricky. For some reasons that I didn't really expect to be a factor. Also, armor definitely helps here. What's your deal? You're totally gonna play that in the range row? You did not play that in the range row, I'm surprised. What's your deal after 2 turns? Turn start, destroy the lowest ally on this row. Which right now would be one of these guys, and that's actually not a huge deal. I assume that doesn't include itself. Ally. Which technically does not include self, I assume. Otherwise... yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, so we probably do still go for things like this. I probably still play the Skellige guys to the extent that we can to try to set ourselves up for the future. It would actually be amazing if we could make this destroy a Skellige guy. Which turn start? Darn it. If we'd already had this guy, or better still, a warrior on the board, we could probably use its self-damage ability to make it the lowest one, and then gives us a free way to destroy it.
Barbarians.
What's your deal? Boost allied machine by 4, give it resilience. Okay, so it does really seem like that is the card that they're building around.
But not on our hands and knees.
Yeah, sorry, Meve, but I mean, this very dramatic, yes, and cool. At the same time, it does very much feel like perhaps this first go-around on this encounter may not really go according to plan, for all the reasons that we've started to say here. We could still target you with a Tainted Ale, which may be worth doing, but it's just we don't have enough Skellige guys for that to work. With no leader ability, we can't spam Dogger to replay him repeatedly like we like to do. And Tainted Ale without the Infiltrators is much weaker than it would otherwise be. So for all those reasons, we just don't really have any of our ideal combos to go with at the moment. Okay, now you actually stay on our side of the board, though, which is kind of interesting. Does this include unit, and only unit? So we technically could play Tainted Ale here. Alright, so let's do this. Okay, so that's just objectively false, the way that this is described. Unit. This is not a unit. This is an artifact. I deliberately played it here so that when we do play units, we had room in the melee row, because eventually, if this round goes long enough, we were going to run out of room in the melee row, because that's where we're going to want to play everything to avoid these guys. So it's happened before on a few occasions where the wording on Thronebreaker has just been objectively wrong. But that's frustrating, because it's just wrong, to put it bluntly. Okay, so that's going to get destroyed. We would love to have had an Infiltrator, but we could have you duel some stuff. Oh, I forgot. This is also really good in the long round. This is another new card that could and should plan around. And Patricide, yes, does benefit from having a lot of enemies on the board, but these guys counter him pretty hard, which makes Patricide kind of a tough sell. Besides the fact that he is a Skellige guy, that assuming we eventually get Dogger out, would make it valuable to get him back on the board. The armor's definitely paying off, though.
Got sand aplenty in them.
Oh, these guys are a pain in the butt. I do remember you. Okay. We could... Let's see. If we were to... Where's the dual one? So you hit for 13. You're functionally 25. That drops you to 12. Means you hit back. You don't destroy this. I mean, it deals a lot of damage, but it doesn't destroy you, which is what I would have really liked to have seen, because these guys add up really quickly. But we could use Artifact Compression on you, I suppose. We could do that. I'd like to get more Skellige guys on the board in anticipation of a potential Dogger later on, but can't really guarantee that at the moment. So I think we do this. I think we do that. And we're basically just not using any orders. Damage an enemy by 2 if it was destroyed, spawn fire on its... Oh, well, you know exactly what they're going for in that case. You know exactly what they're going for in that case. Can we Barnabas and see if we find a way to boost you up? Otherwise, I'm not really sure we have a way to avoid having that happen. I mean, in a long round, the fire would make a big difference. It's already been several turns, so I'm not sure it's going to add up all that much at this point. So we could potentially... Where was it? Just drop another Skellige guy in furtherance of our carryover objectives here. Yeah, more of those guys. You get destroyed. Deals damage, which means we are actually in the lead at the moment. Let's see, we've played 6, or we have 6 cards left. They have 7. Yikes. Yeah, that's not good, pacing-wise. We could pass here, force them to play again. It's not a terrible thing to do, but I think if we can, we would like for this to be a long round. How do we only have 6 cards and they have... Oh, are they drawing cards with their leader ability? Yeah, that's how. Wow, this leader ability is absolutely busted. Okay. Cooldown 1, so you're gonna destroy this on the next turn. I'm surprised you didn't previously, but... Should be able to destroy you if we were to use the fake Florin. Like that. Pretty straightforward, in fact, to make that happen. Otherwise, Barnabas is a gamble. We don't really know what we're gonna get out of him, of course. But yeah, we kind of like this round being long if we can do that without going a bunch of cards down, because that way we can lean more on our high-tempo plays and just having 25 points of carryover. Ooh, that's a reason not to have fire activated in this row. Meve has a lot of armor, though. Okay. So she can probably tank that hit. In multiplayer Gwent, you lose armor on resilience units in between round. I don't remember if we've seen if that's the case or not for Thronebreaker. I don't recall. I think we gamble on Barnabas here.
Not supposed to be any smoke.
Ooh. Okay, I'm not sure we could have gotten a better option, to be honest with you. Not sure we could have gotten a better option. That's just about ideal. And we have a pretty big lead now, which is very nice. We're still going after the bear. Probably a bazillion Darlin soldiers, as is oftentimes the case. Let's see. Taking some damage, but definitely want to save Isbel. I mean, this potentially has good value. It's true. I mean, we should have played Mahakamail at the very beginning, but now it's at the point where we don't want to play it at the end of the round, because then it's going to be bad. So basically, we're going to save this for a later round and play it first, but we're running out of stuff that we're willing to play in this round, and with just a 2-point lead here, once again, we're just barely holding on to a lead when they still have one more card than us. So I think we might need to pass now, otherwise we run the risk of not being in the lead and having played more cards than them, which just puts us in a terrible position long term. So, otherwise, I just don't know what else we could do. Yeah, target you with Fake Florin, but that's not that effective, especially if you're going to be playing humongous point slams like a 20-whatever point Darlin Foot Soldiers, which should now theoretically be, I think, possibly even bigger if you have another one in your hand there. So, I think we probably need to pass. But this looks very, very difficult.
I warned you.
Okay, now they should, of course, pass. Theoretically. They do? Okay. So now I'm curious how they approach round 2. Because, yeah, we lose the armor on me. What? Why do you have resilient? Why did you stay on the board?
Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
Dandelion?
Not foe!
Damn it. Just gets better and
Geralt!
To the bridge!
Kahir?
Get away back to the bridge! Bolster the defense!
What the heck is happening? I mean, as I was saying, it seems like this was going to be a really tough encounter, but I did not expect to see us getting a little bit of assistance from some unexpected sources. Yes, we did say that perhaps, or at least allude to, the fact that there were some hints that we were going to see Geralt sighting in the not-too-distant future, but alas, here he is. Resilience, boost Kahir by 2, and duel an enemy. Cooldown 2. Kahir, Resilience, boost Geralt by 2, and duel an enemy. Cooldown. Oh, okay. Alright, suddenly we may be in business here. Let's see, draw 2 cards until your hand... Wait, draw as many cards you need until your hand is full. Oh, snap. Oh, snap. Okay, so you play Dandelion last, and you get a full hand's worth of stuff, which is pretty insane. These guys will carry over into the next round, which is also amazing. We should play Mahakamail first, assuming this round will be long, which granted we don't know if they're gonna try to push for a quote-unquote 2-0 win and win in this round and just have us never see a round 3, or if they're gonna pass almost immediately and it will go to round 3. Again, it's hard to tell when we're dealing with an AI and not an actual human being on the other side, but I think it might actually make sense for us to go with a Disgraced Warrior here again for the Skellige carryover of sorts. These guys can duel. I would think we'd want to target all the veterans. They will become more difficult to get rid of as time goes on, as they will gain armor and boosts every time we do this, and we'd like to keep these guys relatively strong. So that they don't lose value with the resilience when they get carried over. But let's do this. Wait, what? Next time an enemy uses an order, boost up by 2, gain 2 armor if it's a unit. Since when did they have that ability? What? What? I mean, that's a way to sacrifice Skellige dudes. But what the heck? They absolutely did not have that before. It was always gain a bunch of armor and get boosted by a larger number. They, by no means did they have that damage. Which, as I was just saying, And that significantly reduces Geralt's value, especially on a dueling unit. Okay, you know, yes, that is partially my fault for not reading the fine print there, but, I mean, this card has the same art and it has the same name. Does it have the same name? Were they always veterans before? Alright. Well, I guess that's on me for not reading the fine print. So we could do this here as well, and you know, the more quickly we get rid of the cavalry, the less of an issue they become. But when they do, these two do kind of sustain each other. But what was the order? Kahir attacks first, or does he get damaged by them first? Because that probably dictates whether he can actually destroy one of these cavalry or not. He absolutely can at the moment. But if they damage by 6 total, he's functionally at 14 right now, so he dropped to 8, which is potentially 1 point off. So I don't love that. But we're gonna try. Okay, it does happen first, so that's good. So now that at least there's only 2 of them, so that does limit their value. So it was the sheer volume of veterans that was making them an issue before, in many ways. But they have damage. They have damage. I am very concerned that our free win by getting carried through Kahir and Geralt is in jeopardy at the moment. We could do that, and that would help a lot. These guys have cooldown 2, so they're not ready to go yet. Set this row on fire. That's not a terrible thing to do. As we're saying, Mahakamail is probably a pretty good idea to do early. Okay, let's do this. And case could be made for using Disgraced Warrior as well. Naturally, it boosts the unit that we care least about getting boosted. They pass. It's good timing to pass. Yeah, I'm pretty mad about that. Okay, we do actually have a Strays Infiltrator now, which I did not realize before. It's too slow for that to work at the moment. In fact, most things are very slow at the moment. Fake Florin might be our easiest out here. Definitely our highest tempo play, because we go Veteran on Enforcers, and it's going to eventually destroy a Veteran and cause a lot of damage in the process. This could also be a safe, relatively safe turn to use a Jade Figurine, but I think we probably do this. You duel you, destroys you, gets rid of your armor, and now that means it's still not really safe for you guys to duel anybody, really. So we need one point. Are you kidding me? Okay, fair enough. It was not the highest possible tempo way to use Fake Florin there. I did it mostly to set up these guys, so on the assumption that they would have somebody who they could duel, they don't. So I guess that's on me for not doing the math, but unless, and you can technically take a hit from several people here and do a tiny bit of damage in return, but it gives them value on the Veteran. But if that makes it so that these guys can suddenly duel somebody, then is that worth it? No, we have to go multiple cards down. Alright, I absolutely despise this. In part, it's just slightly suboptimal plays on my part that are very much adding up. But it's also some little rules getting changed and little tricks that don't feel like they were... They feel like they're a little underhanded. Feel a little underhanded. Not the fairest of ways to trick us by a slight technicality on this. The technicality in round 1 with us. Boosting them even though we did not play a unit in the range, for things like that. But, okay. We are in the lead. So we don't... oh, okay. Well, we don't need to play on this turn because the Mahakamail will boost us up. Yeah, that's actually what gave us the the chance to overtake them, and hey, it doesn't. It also technically should have activated there. Again, that's a technicality that, I mean, it's wrong. Like, the wording is phrased wrong in that case, which is frustrating. Again, okay. Now I think we definitely need to set this row on fire, and these guys, they are an issue. They are an issue. I think we may possibly play a somewhat early Isbell, try to wipe them, and then that frees up Cahir and Geralt to do a lot more long-term, which I think may still be more valuable than delayed and more optimized Isbell, although, granted, the duelists will potentially take even more damage as time goes on, further increasing Isbell's value. No Dogger either. I mean, we will presumably get him when we use Dandelion, so I suppose there is still that. I think it probably needs to be Bomber either way. We should put you in this row. Oh, no, we don't have the, don't have the Machimail anymore, so it doesn't matter what row we're playing in all that much. So, yes, we can use one of these order abilities. However, we will get hit by the remaining veterans, and it will hurt a lot. So I don't really think we should do that yet, which is, again, why Isbell at this point is very tempting. But the fire certainly helps make this a little more reasonable. With a lot of damage. They have a lot in the way of... Ooh. Hold on just a second. I think we mean business. I think we actually do mean business here.
If anyone asks, you've not seen me.
That is gonna hurt now, and Cahir is vulnerable. Don't get me wrong, but... they're going after Geralt. They absolutely should be going after Cahir instead, though. So we're on cooldown, which is dangerous. Because this would be a great turn to get Cahir boosted back up and try to get rid of some of the last few guys here. Patricide, at this point, with few enough veterans, we may be able to justify him. So I'm leaning that way. Now, Isbell is, of course, a little bit stronger. Love the Joker line. Okay. Yeah, they're going after Geralt. Okay. So, if we use Patricide, he can actually destroy this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is enough damage. He's going to get hit by you. And then Geralt would not be strong enough to destroy you, though. So, bit of a conflicting priority here of, do you destroy one with Patricide and get this one high enough that it can't be targeted at all, or do you destroy one of the weaker ones with Geralt or Cahir, and at least that way this one... Like, you destroy with Cahir, and then this one could be destroyed with might not be destroyable with Geralt. I think we do this. You get hit once, which is very scary. But now we can do... 1, 2, 3, 4. You get boosted by 4 and gain... Yeah, so it's net no gain from Patricide on you. You're just out of removal range here. And we can't realistically get you taken care of. Not unless we were to drop an Isbell. I mean, these guys will continue to come out. I think we do kind of have to go Isbell. Yes, the longer we wait, the stronger she would
I
become.
hoped we could solve this some other way.
But I think that we are now just about desperate to shut them off. And Cahir, I really wanted to use Geralt here to boost up Cahir, but this guy's too strong. Any logical player would go after Cahir here, but they seem to be focused on Geralt before. We'll see how smart the AI is. So again, this felt like when we first saw it was basically an automatic way to win. That's a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage, but this is why we were going to use Isbel, so that they weren't going to have nearly as much damage. It is, they have armor, but it should still be enough to destroy everything. And we have 5 cards in our deck, which means Dandelion would draw us into everything. So we could do that. We could do that now. And that would give us access to... Obviously, Daugr, yes, but I'm just wondering if there's anything that in the short term would help us. With Geralt, yes, Alchemist would. Okay, so I think we probably do go into that. So this should make things safer. Obviously, no Patricide here, so it's just redundant. So we do that. Yes, the longer we waited, the stronger Isbel would have become, but I think shutting them off was pretty important there. And now we go for Dandelion and draw into everything we have left. We're gonna use Alchemist to get Geralt back up, and we hope that we've bought enough time to at least... I mean, it's gonna be really hard to target anything with Geralt at this point, I suppose.
That was not in the spell books.
Okay. If any way... well, that's what Alchemist is here for, of course. And then when we use Geralt, we can suddenly use... or have an opportunity to power up Cahir. We can also do Patricide now, because there are no more of these veterans to be concerned about. And we'd like to finish with Daugr, since we don't have a way to replay him anymore. And, you know, if we happen to lose more Skellige guys in the process, then that's actually fine. And we actually feel okay about using their order abilities now. So let's do
There's
this.
been a mistake. I'm no mage.
Then, I mean, this doesn't actually matter, but sure. Do this. It's mostly just a means to get Cahir a little bit boosted up. We hope to have a few other easy targets for Geralt to go after, which this should... Well, technically, needs a little bit of time before we can do that. Unless we were to use Reynard, in which case we would get that order ability back. Which, you know, it's... Perhaps you would like to have it on both Cahir and Geralt. That would be optimized in most circumstances. However, being able to shut this down immediately before it can summon more stuff, and again, get Cahir boosted up a little bit, and that way he's less easily removed, and it starts to become a little more possible for him to actually use his own order ability. So I think there actually is a pretty strong case to be made for playing Reynard here. I mean, we might as well do this, I suppose, for good measure, even though it's functionally not going to make a difference.
Forward march!
Oh, right, no, Isbel doesn't have any damage on her order until we take more damage, but that is very interesting, actually, because that was the downside of Isbel earlier, was we were concerned about having to play her a little bit suboptimally by playing her as early as we did. But now, Cahir's up to 5, should be not impossible, but harder for them to destroy him. And that cow is going to destroy him. Speaking of which, unless we play something small... Don't really think we can make it happen. Don't really think... So we can't destroy an allied unit. Nothing we play will be smaller than Cahir. This Infiltrator we can't play on our side. Brawler is a 7, which is close. It will technically get a little bit stronger from Valmir's Horn. Yeah, I think we are going to lose Cahir. But at least we still have a strong Geralt at that, and I think we've shut down a lot of what our opponent was trying to do. So that much is good. I would love if we had a Skellige guy to sacrifice to this cow carcass. And this is the closest we can get.
Think I'm a beer?
I mean, technically speaking, Galaxy Brain approach, it is best to sacrifice Cahir. To use this order ability, we get an extra boost on Geralt that way. Cahir dies to the Rot Tosser. However, that makes you the smallest unit on this row. You get destroyed. We actually want to do that because that means Dogger gets more value, and as we were saying, it means a little bit more boosting on Geralt as well. So this actually is, unless there was some odd way in which we were going to eventually have a way to get something smaller, or they were going to put something smaller on our side of the board, there was no way for us to avoid Cow Carcass backfiring significantly. Okay, because there is the Skellige guy lost, and it powers the Patricide a little bit as well. We do want to make sure we have enough time for the Infiltrator, of course. Allies all get immune. Deathwish, remove immune. So we would like to get rid of you. Which, yeah, no, Isabel's nowhere near close enough. I mean, Geralt can destroy you. And, in fact, it's a pretty straightforward way to destroy you at that. Let's get more of the Skellige guys out, because we don't need to use Infiltrators just yet, although we have 2 of them, so we need to be a little bit careful there. Do that. Technically should have done this. Well, we couldn't do that, because you had immunity moments ago.
A highly curious case.
Heal ally boosted by the amount healed. Not bad. You're just barely in Geralt removal range. Although now we could deliberately sacrifice Disgraced Warriors, especially because we have Dogger. That's not a bad thing to do. We may need to start playing Infiltrators, though, in all likelihood. So let's do that. I mean, technically we don't need to just yet, but in the interest of not getting ourselves in a lot of trouble, then let's just sacrifice. Power you guys up and make it so that Dogger will still get good value and powers up Isabel as well. What was that?
I've lost my tooth. Fun of a whore.
What? What was that? Mutilating blow. Destroy Queen Meve. Okay. Turns out Meve's greatest weakness was her truth, apparently. Alright, so now I guess we go another Infiltrator here. And we would normally like for Geralt to duel the biggest card, but obviously that doesn't really work well when we have the Infiltrator set up there, so we should just duel you instead. Technically, again, we also don't want to use Patricide in that case. Either way, we're going to have more damage than we need. Let's do this. You come back. Next turn, you'll come back. Draw 2 cards, boost all allies by 2. Hey, I mean, that's not terrible, the whole boosting part. They don't have a lot of units, but powers up you, and you are going to power up you, so that's not bad. Means we still don't want to use you. We should get down a Disgraced Warrior here.
Is today the day?
What's Isabel up to? Still not that much. You come back. Very nice. Plenty of time for that. What's your deal? Give people immune. Not an issue. Not much of an issue here. So now we can target you, and we should sacrifice once again in anticipation of playing Dogger likely on our next turn. And it gets Isabel stronger. And now, technically we are okay about hitting you at this point. Oh, speaking of playing Dogger, that is this turn when that is happening, isn't it?
On Handor! Don't need no weapon! Come here, let's dance! Waiting for a personal invitation?
So we did still find a way to get pretty solid value out of those guys. And what looked to be a very difficult encounter is now looking better, although bear in mind, we have 1 card left, they still have 5. And our last card is not very big. We do still have Isabel, who at this point has gotten a little bit stronger.
Egreto dum anime est, spes est.
Oh, that's from their leader ability that they drew the card, because looking at this, like, I don't see anything that says you can draw a card here. But, okay, so, yes, we can do more self-damage, and I think we should, because that does still net out in our favor. In fact, if we can destroy ourselves, that is still beneficial as well for the Skellige guys. No time for Geralt to use his last order ability. Let's see, I think we've determined, in this case, with all of our other Skellige guys on the board, it is still a net positive to destroy Disgraced Warriors, even if we can't replay Dagger. So let's do this. So we lose 10 to gain... they might be high enough base power that that is not necessarily the case anymore. Let's see. Is that 14 versus... boost by 2, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12? So that's actually negative at this point to lose you. So I think the other guy was a little bit weaker, so it might have been roughly equal, or roughly even, except it does still give Isbell value. So that actually, I mean, Isbell's going to destroy everything for what it's worth at this point. So I guess that means we probably just leave everything as is. And we use this, deliberately play this last because it's very vulnerable. But then, I guess it has 1 armor at least. We use Isbell, and now we have a 240-point lead. And they have 5 cards to catch us. Can they do it? They probably will get a little bit more than that from their leader ability, but we shall see. There's nothing we can do at this point. That will add up quickly, which is kind of scary. Okay, turn an ally into their hand, just buying themselves more time to potentially get another round of their leader ability, but can they pull this off? They still have a lot of ground to make up and only 1 card to do it. So I'm not sure if they can anymore. So it certainly wasn't pretty, as we did not necessarily play optimally, but we did succeed. With the help of Geralt.
Meve was victorious on the banks of the Yaruga, but paid dearly for it. She lost a host of men and suffered harm herself. Yet she'd have been doomed, if not for a certain white-haired witcher. Meve longed to meet her mysterious savior, and set off in search of him as soon as the battle dust had settled. She found him with the field surgeon and learned he was none other than the Witcher Geralt.
Of Rivia, mind you.
Incredible as it may seem, I've heard the tale from several and can vouch for its truth. At any rate, making note of the fact that Geralt's ears were ringing from a blow with a mace, Meve began immediately to interrogate him.
You for Woodbridge?
Asked Meve, prodding him insistently.
It's a little hard to understand what Meve is saying now.
Worried his hearing was shot, but then realized the Queen had a lisp.
Worked out that way, I guess.
You guess?
Meve gagged on the blood in her mouth.
Someone hold me!
The Queen felt Geralt merited the highest honor, a knighthood. Another monarch might have delayed until a more opportune time, but not Meve. Meve delayed nothing.
Oh, was he not of Rivia until this moment?
Odo, you, sir, do the honors. Alas, I cannot because of my tooth.
For valor shown in battle, I, Meve, by the gods' grace, Queen of Lyria and Rivia, hereby do knight thee.
Geralt of Praise unknown. The bridge you felled with men from Rivia. Or so you guess. I guess it falls to me to dub thee Geralt of Rivia.
Geralt of Rivia? His actual name confirmed? That's interesting. Because in...
Meve
Oh,
had come
hold on.
home, though by a circuitous route, through Edern's smoking embers, Angren's
Home?
beast-infested quagmires, cross Mahakam's snow-capped ridges. But she had returned, cloaked in legend, a mighty army in tow.
I mean, it's
The
not
moment
that
was
impressive of an
waiting,
army,
not
let's be
to
honest.
Tainted even by Geralt of Rivia's disappearance, or dare we say desertion. The hero of the battle for the bridge was now a sought man. Yet Meve was determined to take back her realm, with or without the Witcher's aid.
Was there some way we could have kept him?
Valerian's daring escapade
So we didn't have any
behind enemy
choice,
lines, and
seemingly.
the triumphant victory at the battle for the bridge that crowned it breathed new life into the North's war effort. Bands of resistance fighters now swarmed the conquered lands, while Kedwin and Redania, on the verge of swearing fealty to the Emperor, suddenly broke off talks with the invader. The Nilfgaardian war machine suddenly
Was this the last
screeched to
battle
a
in the entire
halt,
game?
and the tide of war turned. Facing a united North, the invader had to withdraw the bulk of its forces from Lyria and Rivia. The way was cleared for Meve to retake her lost lands, defeat General Epdahi, and depose Willem. Or perhaps mother and son would not have to fight after all.
I assume there's at least going to be a whole section in Rivia.
Lady, I come at King Willem's bidding.
Prince Willems.
His Majesty proposes a meeting. No arms, no escorts.
I think we're at the end of the game.
His Majesty? Whelp's barely tall enough to reach his mother's bosom. For shame!
Silence. Let him say his piece.
Also, her lisp is better, apparently. But she didn't have that scar on her face until just now, did she?
The first wishes to discuss the possibility of a truce.
So, maybe that was the final battle after all that build-up. As I said, I had thought that the battle for the bridge was the final battle, but I had always assumed that there was at least going to be an entire section in Rivia, if not potentially even a Temerian section before that. Maybe there still is. But it just felt like after we had a whole section leading up to us disposing of Caldwell, surely we would have something like that, if not more so, for Willem himself, as he was, even more so, in some ways at least, the primary person behind all this, even if Caldwell was the one pulling the strings in many cases. But, and then there's the question of, okay, did we have a way to keep Geralt with us? Because we didn't really have a choice in the matter. We just said, nope, he's gone now. But maybe that's because that was the final battle. And interesting thing, of course, Geralt, his full name is Geralt of Rivia. However, I believe, at least in the games, and I can't say definitively about the books because I actually haven't read them, but we learned that supposedly, as a Witcher, he made up his name, and I thought that I'd remembered of Rivia was mostly just to make him seem a little bit more relatable and perhaps a little more employable as a Witcher, but is this actually the... So I hesitate to say canonical way in which he earned his title of Rivia. I didn't realize it was an official title in which he actually got knighted. I thought, again, it was mostly just more of an informal way that he threw something on to the end of his name to make him seem like a easier person to get along with and more likely for people to employ him as Witcher. But maybe this is actually the story behind it. It certainly seems like it, which is very cool, the way that ties together. And a dramatic entrance, of course, from both him and from Cahir, who, again, having not read the books, I don't have a great sense as to how exactly he ties into the overarching narrative, although from what I've read between the lines and done a little bit of research on, my understanding is that he actually does have a pretty prominent role in helping Geralt in the books. So fitting that he would make an appearance there as well, and also he's one of my favorite characters or cards in multiplayer Gwent, so for that reason, also happy to see him. Let's see, so Willem. Where does that leave us with him? Is this all just going to come down to one final conversation with him?
He wishes to surrender. Is that his aim?
Because it just feels like with all this build-up, and now suddenly everything is just collapsing. Everything's happening, and all of a sudden we didn't really have much in direct interaction in order to make that happen. So this last part does feel potentially a little bit rushed, in a way.
Your words, not mine, Your Grace.
So I expected this to more get played out over time throughout an entire area in which we would have had more battles and decisions to be made to build up to a final where it would be more clear over time that, here's a dramatic battle in which we fought off this group of Nilfgaardians and a little bit more here and here, and not just one battle at a bridge that wasn't really directly tied to the main Nilfgaardian force. It just so happened to be a certain contingent that was trying to cut us off, but not at part of the overarching Nilfgaardian army is much bigger than the group that we fought there on the bridge.
I have a few more on the tip of my tongue, but save them I shall for later.
Willem I's chosen the site for the parley in...
Willem I will choose Nout. If he wishes to speak, Let him meet me midst the ruins of Devil's Tower.
I don't remember where Devil's Tower is. I don't think I know.
Understood, Your Grace. I'll relay your terms.
Also, now that we are apparently back in Lyria or Rivia, I actually don't remember which one it said that we were in, just that we are home now. It is very interesting how Meve suddenly has perhaps the authority of actual queen beyond just the scope of our local retinue, but actually the land as a whole. So she's suddenly, she has a little more power over Willem.
Willem's emissary rode off, serenaded by hisses and jeers. Frightened by the clamor, his horse reared and kicked. The rider forced his mount to obey with cracks of his crop, striking many more times than was necessary.
Yeah, he's nervous and inexperienced and perhaps a little bit incapable.
The fool. Nag'll toss him off first chance it gets. Soon as he loosens the reins.
No great loss, I wager. But tell me, your thoughts on this reunion?
Sounds a ruse to me.
Yeah, that may
I know
be.
That won't stop you.
Whence this certainty?
Come now, Meve. At the end of it all, he's your son. You still care about him, it's obvious.
I mean, that much is true. See, Willem's a traitor, I'll treat him as such. Couldn't be more right in that he is a son and we still care about him. So, alright, here's a decision that perhaps does have a significant amount of weight. We need to choose how much do we actually trust him. Okay, now here's another point. Yes, we defeated Caldwell, we defeated that group on the bridge. However, there's still Dahi, the actual general who's behind the primary Nilfgaardian force, and we haven't met him in person at all. So, for that reason, although it certainly seems very much as though the game is rapidly accelerating toward the end, surely there's some kind of confrontation with him. And the fact that we haven't seen him yet suggests that maybe this right here is a trick of Dahi's creation. So, as much as, perhaps it would be nice to try to somehow make peace with our son who has been as terrible of a traitor as you can just about possibly be. He is still our son. But, are we playing right into Dahi's hand if we do this? I don't know. Maybe we try this, but I'm very suspicious now, suddenly, of Dahi.
You're absolutely right.
So I don't think Willem's even going to be here. I think it's going to be trapped from Dahi.
Let bygones be bygones.
Wait.
Perhaps it's not too late.
Where does that phrase originate from? Isn't that from a different... I thought that was like a... I'm not even going to... That was like Star Trek or something. Which I probably am totally wrong about. Or no, it's Star Wars. Or Star Wars? I don't know. Now I've made a bazillion people absolutely livid at me. But my point being, isn't that from a totally different franchise that is very strange for Gascon to be referencing here without breaking... He's basically breaking the fourth wall.
Only one way to know. Let's go.
Meve rode out, clad in golden plate, her banners waving proudly overhead. She no longer led a band of ragtag partisans, but an army able to fend off an empire and drive its soldiers from her lands.
I mean, did we somehow dramatically, rapidly and significantly increase the power and size of our army after that battle on the bridge? By getting back home, did we regain the troops that Willem had basically stolen from us, and now we're much stronger than we were before? Because if not, then that feels like doesn't seem all that true.
Ma'am, I've something you must see without undue delay.
Oh, okay. Return of the Queen. Go to the meeting with Willem. Okay, so first of all, where are we? I assume it's Rivia. Oh no, well, should check the map, not that. I assume it's Rivia. Does it even say? I assume it's Rivia. So I don't think this is Lyria anymore. So that was where we started, of course. Does seem like this area is small, and it looks like, perhaps, based on what we were seeing right here, that we have gotten exactly what I was hoping we would get, that being a full-blown section in which to conclude the overall narrative, because there's been such amazing writing, such amazing build-up to all of these plot points, that I would have been very disappointed if the game just kind of said, all right, yeah, no, you finished a battle that wasn't, it was big, it was dramatic, but it didn't really seem like the final battle, but we're just gonna, you know, finish everything up there, just very quickly summarize absolutely everything getting resolved without you having any direct involvement in it at the very end, and just gonna assume that everything works out totally fine, don't worry about it. That would have been, I would have been very disappointed if that were the case. So I'm glad to see that it seems like we will have more time to be more involved in the conclusion of the game, and we aren't just rushed through it at the very end. But with that being said, we certainly have more stuff to do in the near future, but this is a good place for us to wrap up here. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.